Close your eyes now. Take a deep, slow breath in and let it drift out, soft and easy. Feel your body resting, safe and calm. Let the day slip further and further away. You are here now, in a quiet place, where only the gentle hum of my voice remains. Notice your shoulders, how they can soften. Notice your hands, how they no longer need to hold on to anything. Notice your breathing, slow, steady, like waves rolling gently upon the shore. Each breath carries you further into peace, further into stillness, and as you drift, I will tell you a story, a soft story, woven like a lullaby, carrying you through threads of light and whispers of night. Our story tonight begins beneath a velvet sky, where the stars seem close enough to touch. There was once, in a quiet medieval town, a weaver unlike any other. Her home sat at the very edge of the rooftops, higher than the chimneys, so close to the heavens that it seemed the sky had chosen her alone. By day, she made cloths for villagers, linen for gowns, wool for cloaks, fine thread for the guild. But by night, she tended to a secret loom, a loom not of wood or rope, but of silver beams and starlit threads. The people whispered of her, but softly, almost reverently. Some said she was born beneath a comet, her cradle lit by its tail of fire. Others said she was taught by the spirits of the constellations themselves. No one truly knew. What they did know was this. At night, from her high window, a pale glow spread across the town, as though a piece of the sky had lowered itself to rest among the rooftops. The weaver would sit with her shuttle in hand, candle flickering by her side, and listen to the song of the night. It wasn't music, not in the way a lute plays or a harp sighs. It was softer than that. The hum of crickets, the whisper of wind between the beams, the slow sigh of sleeping houses, and above it all the faint, steady twinkle of stars, like notes played on the strings of the universe. Her loom responded to it. Each swish of the shuttle kept time with the rhythm of the sky. Thread by thread, she wove tapestries that seemed to breathe fabric that shimmered as though light itself had been captured in the weave. Some said if you touched her cloth, you could hear faint echoes of dreams not yet dreamed. But the weaver did not weave for riches. She did not weave for kings or lords, though they sent for her often. She wove because she could not sleep. Each night, when the town slumbered, she stayed awake, guiding the shuttle, spinning threads of silver and blue, until her own heart grew steady and her own mind fell quiet. One night, the moon was round and full, its reflection spilling over the tiled roofs like spilled milk. The weaver sat, as always, candlelight trembling against the window panes, but tonight, the air was different. Still, heavier, as though waiting for something. She lifted her head, her shuttle pausing in her hand. And then, faintly, she heard it, a sound she had never heard before. Not the hum of insects, not the sigh of trees. It was like a single note, drawn out long and soft, echoing across the heavens. It felt alive. The weaver's fingers trembled. Slowly, she set the shuttle back into motion. With each pass, the sound grew clearer, brighter. It was as though the very stars had begun to sing. She leaned closer to her loom, candlelight dancing in her eyes, and there, between the threads, she saw them teeny sparks, glowing faintly, like stars caught in a net. Her cloth was no longer just fabric, it was becoming sky. The cloth shimmered beneath her hands, faint sparks glimmering like constellations half remembered. Her shuttle whispered back and forth, soft as a lullaby. And still the note persisted, stretching, echoing, calling. The weaver leaned close, listening. Her breath slowed, her heart matched its rhythm. It was not only sound, it was feeling. Comfort, safety, a gentle hand reaching out from the night itself. Outside her window, the village lay silent. Roof tiles gleamed with dew, narrow streets wound like ribbons of shadow. Lanterns had long been extinguished. Only the occasional rustle of straw, or the faint nicker of a horse in its stall stirred the quiet. But up here, in her little loft above the rooftops, the weaver felt as though she were no longer alone, as though something watched her with kindness. She pressed her palm to the shimmering fabric. A warmth pulsed faintly beneath her skin, like the hush of a heartbeat. The note grew softer, more intricate now, weaving itself into chords, like many voices singing together. She closed her eyes, and the cloth began to tell a story. It began with darkness, the endless night before creation, a night with no stars, no moon, only silence. Then, one by one, threads of light appeared, long silver trails scattering across the void, shaping constellations like stitches on an invisible canvas. The story was not spoken, nor written. It was woven, rising from the threads under her fingers. She felt it as much as she saw it, images spilling like water into her mind. She saw hunters and lions traced across the heavens, bears and swans and dragons too. She saw the wheel of time, each season marking its passage by new patterns unfolding in the night, and she understood, with quiet awe, that her loom was not only a tool, it was a mirror. Each thread she drew, each pattern she wove, echoed what had already been placed above her in the endless quilt of stars. The weaver's lips parted, a soft sigh escaping. The fabric hummed beneath her touch, alive with starlight. She could almost imagine a great hand guiding hers, steady, patient, ancient, The candle beside her flickered low, its flame bent toward the loom, as though drawn by the glow within the threads. The air thickened with the scent of beeswax and linen, warm and faintly sweet. Outside, the moon lifted higher, silver spilling across the gables and chimneys. The weaver thought of the villagers, sleeping in their homes below, children curled beneath wool blankets, mothers humming soft lullabies, fathers resting weary bones from the day's labor, and she thought, perhaps I am weaving their dreams. Each pass of her shuttle, each star stitched in silk, seemed to carry a blessing downward into the sleeping town. A farmer might dream of golden fields, a child might dream of flying with swans, a widow might dream of her lost love, smiling once more. The thought warmed her. She bent again to her work, the shuttle gliding, her foot pressing the treadle, swoosh tap, swoosh tap. The rhythm was steady, soothing, as though the loom itself had become a great heartbeat for the world. The sound outside changed, not the star song now, but something nearer, the soft rustle of wings. The weaver looked toward her window. There upon the sill perched a small white owl. Its eyes glowed faintly wide and knowing, reflecting the shimmer of the cloth. It did not move. It only watched. She smiled faintly, whispering, "Are you a messenger, little one?" The owl blinked, slow, solemn. She turned back to her loom. When she looked again, the owl was gone. Only a single white feather remained on the sill, glowing faintly in the candlelight. The weaver lifted it, twirling it gently between her fingers. Soft, weightless, it seemed to hum with the same quiet music as the cloth. Without hesitation, she wove it into the tapestry, and at once, the threads flared brighter. The star-song swelled, warm and sweet, filling the loft with a light like dawn. The weaver gasped softly, tears pricking her eyes, for in that moment she understood the stars were not distant. They were here. They were always here, waiting to be seen, waiting to be woven into the fabric of each quiet night. The loom whispered on, steady and unhurried. Each thread she passed seemed lighter now, as though it carried not just color, but breath and exhale from the night itself. The white feather rested secure among the silken strands, glowing faintly, as though it belonged there all along. The weaver leaned closer, tracing its curve where it nestled against the fabric, soft as a sigh, radiant as frost under moonlight. She whispered to herself, "This is no ordinary cloth," and indeed it was not. When she gazed at the shimmering weave, she no longer saw patterns alone. She saw windows. Through them, the quiet lives of her village flickered like lanterns. An old shepherd in his bed, dreaming of green fields. A little girl curling closer to her doll, safe under the quilt her mother stitched. A scholar at his desk, fallen asleep over parchment, ink still wet on his hand. Each thread seemed to hold a fragment of these lives woven gently, lovingly, into the great tapestry. Her breath trembled, her heart swelled. She felt both impossibly small and deeply important. The night deepened. Beyond the village, the forest stirred in shadows, branches creaked, leaves whispered secrets to the wind. Somewhere a stream murmured over stones, steady as time. And in the loft, the weaver's candle dwindled. Its flame bent, fragile and thin, yet it did not gut her out. It held on, as though sharing her devotion. The star-song thrummed softly, no longer just a single note but a weaving of many tones, high, low, near, far, like a choir just beyond hearing. She could not tell if the sound came from the cloth, the stars above, or the beat of her own heart. Perhaps it was all three. She closed her eyes and let it carry her. The music was a tide and she drifted upon it. Safe, suspended between dream and waking. Then, in the quiet, a thought arose, gentle but certain. The stars have always been keepers of stories. They guided sailors across endless seas. They marked the seasons for sowing and harvest. They became the shapes of heroes, lovers, beasts, all etched into the sky so they would not be forgotten. And now, here she sat, no queen, no scholar, only a weaver with a humble loom, yet her hands were echoing the work of the heavens. Thread by thread, she was binding earth to sky, night to dream, silence to song. The realization filled her chest with warmth, not pride, but gratitude, as though she had been trusted with something precious. A reminder that every person, no matter how small, was stitched into the same vast cloth. The owl's feather pulsed faintly in the weave. The weaver leaned near and whispered, "What next, little one?" Her fingers brushed the shuttle, but it moved on its own, gliding across the warp with perfect ease. The loom seemed to know the pattern without her. She guided only gently now, more companion than master. It was as though she were listening as much as weaving. The fabric grew. At first, it was only star-silver specks glowing against deep blue threads. But then images formed, a spiral, like a galaxy unfurling, a path of light leading outward, and at its end, a tower, high, silent, standing against the sky, its windows dark, its stones gray with age, yet a light glowed faintly at its peak, steady, waiting. The weaver's breath caught. She knew this place. Every child in her village did. It was the old watchtower, long abandoned, on the hill beyond the fields. No god had stood there for generations, but still it watched, silent and enduring. Why would the stars weave such an image for her now? The cloth glowed brighter. The tower's shape shimmered on its surface, its light pulsing gently, as though it called. Note returned, steady and clear. This time, it did not lull her into stillness. It beckoned. The weaver set down her shuttle, trembling hands resting in her lap. The loom continued to hum softly, content to wait. She gazed at the image, heart fluttering. Was she meant to go there? To climb that tower and discover what waited within? The idea both frightened and soothed her. She was no wanderer, no adventurer. Her world had always been thread and loom, spindle and cloth. Yet the star song pulsed with gentle insistence, not demanding but inviting, not a command but a promise. Outside, the moon tilted westward. The first blush of dawn touched the horizon, faint and tender. The weaver realized how long she had sat at her loom, lost in the endless hush of the night. And yet she did not feel tired. She felt alive, awake in a way she had never known. She rose slowly, stretching stiff limbs. Her gaze lingered on the tapestry, still glowing softly with starlight. The owl's feather shone brightest of all, marking the path toward the watchtower. She whispered into the quiet loft. Then at dusk, "I will go." The star song softened, satisfied. The loom hushed, threads shimmering with a quiet peace. The weaver blew out her candle and the loft sank into silver moonlight.